I never thought I'd find myself here. My name is Mike, and I'm a 35-year-old IT manager in a mid-sized tech company. My wife, Sarah, is a 33-year-old social media consultant who has always been a bit of a social climber. We had what I thought was a solid marriage. We met in college, married shortly after, and built a life together. But lately, things started to feel off, like a radio tuning in and out of frequency. At first, I brushed it off. Sarah had been working late more often, claiming she was busy with clients and networking events. I understood that her job demanded a lot of her time. Plus, I'm kind of the supportive husband type, always cheering her on. But I began to notice little changes. Her phone was always face down, she'd get defensive if I asked about her day, and she started going out with her friends more frequently, sometimes without telling me where they were going. Then there was that one evening. I returned home early from work, planning to surprise her with dinner. I pulled into the driveway, and as I was walking past our living room, I caught a glimpse of Sarah. On the couch, her head tilted back, laughing in a way that felt too intimate with some guy on her phone. I didn't think much of it at first, just assumed it was a video call or something. But as I stood there, I felt a twinge of something, unease maybe. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and that unease turned into dread. I had taken a few days off work to recharge, and I noticed her being secretive. The final straw came when I accidentally found her phone on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. I picked it up, intending to put it in her bedroom, but a text notification caught my eye. It was from a name I didn't recognize. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I miss you." Read, my heart sank. I opened the message, and it only got worse. The conversation was flirty and suggestive, filled with emojis that made my stomach turn. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I quickly put the phone back, trying to catch my breath. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was harmless, but deep down I knew it was. That night I confronted Sarah. I waited until after dinner when the tension was palpable. I asked her about the text, and her reaction was immediate. She laughed it off and claimed it was just a joke, a friend messing with her. The way she shrugged it off felt rehearsed, like a broken record repeating the same old tune. I didn't buy it. I pushed her for more details, trying to get her to admit the truth, but she was insistent that I was overreacting. "You're being paranoid, Mike. It's just harmless fun. You know how I am with my friends." Her excuses felt like a slap in the face. I had always trusted her, and in that moment I felt like a fool. The anger surged through me. How could she do this? I accused her, and instead of coming clean, she turned it around, claiming I had been distant and that I didn't understand her. She made me feel like I was the one in the wrong for questioning her. The emotional impact of that confrontation was like a roller coaster. I went from furious to devastated in seconds. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something, but I held back, wanting to maintain some semblance of control. After she finished her rant, I just stood there, feeling utterly torn. My wife, the woman I loved, was lying to me. I could see it in her eyes, the way they darted around, avoiding mine, the way her voice trembled slightly when she spoke. The next few days were surreal. I felt like I was moving through molasses. I began to analyze every moment we had shared, every laugh, every intimate moment. I felt betrayed and humiliated. My mind raced with questions. Was there someone else? How long had this been going on? Did she love me at all? In the quiet moments when I was alone with my thoughts, the sadness began to settle in. I felt like I was losing a part of myself, and I had no idea how to reclaim it. I always thought we'd work through our issues together, but now it felt like I was standing on a tightrope, teetering between love and betrayal, with no safety net below. The decision on how to move forward loomed over me like a dark cloud. I felt lost. Could I really forgive her? Did I even want to? I knew that I had to make a choice, not just for myself, but for my future. The question was how to reclaim my power in a situation where I felt so powerless. As I sat there, gripping my coffee cup, I made a silent vow to myself. Whatever happened next, I would not let this define me. I would find a way to rise above this, even if it meant taking back control in a way that neither Sarah nor her new friend could anticipate. And that's where my journey truly began. After that night, I was living in a fog. I'd go to work, sit through meetings, and pretend everything was fine, but inside I was a storm of confusion and rage. I began to think about how I could turn this situation around, not just for myself but for my future. I realized I had to be strategic. I couldn't let Sarah's betrayal dictate the narrative of my life. In the days that followed, I did some digging. I didn't want to jump to conclusions again, but I felt I needed to know the truth. I started watching her more closely. I noticed the little things when she got a text, her smile was a little too wide and her laughter sounded too forced. It was as if she was trying to convince herself that everything was normal. I couldn't stand it. The thought of her lying made my skin crawl. One Sunday morning, I decided to go through her social media accounts. I felt a little guilty, like I was invading her privacy, but after what I'd discovered, I felt justified. I started scrolling through her messages and comments, and that's when I found it pictures of her with that guy, Jason, the one who had been texting her. They looked cozy, laughing at some event, arms wrapped around each other like they were an item. My heart sank. There it was, undeniable proof of betrayal. I felt like I was suffocating. My gut churned, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream but held back, not wanting to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break down. Instead, I closed my computer and sat in silence, plotting my next move. I realized I couldn't confront her again without more evidence. I needed a plan, so I started paying closer attention to her daily routine. I would follow her on days she claimed to be working late or at networking events. I knew where her office was, and I figured it wouldn't be too hard to catch her in the act. I had the skill set, after all, being in tech. I could track her digitally, and I was willing to do whatever it took to find out if she was really with Jason. It didn't take long. A few nights later, I followed her after work. I parked a few blocks away, watching as she met up with him at a bar downtown. My heart raced as I saw them together, sitting close at the bar, sharing a plate of nachos, laughing and whispering. I felt like I was watching a movie, only this was my life. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I wanted to charge in there and confront them both, but I held back. I needed to keep my cool. After about an hour, Sarah leaned in closer to Jason, and I could see her hand brush against his. Anger filled me. I had never felt such a visceral need to act, but I resisted. I was determined to gather more evidence. I snapped a few photos from my phone, documenting their closeness. I knew I would need proof to confront her properly, and these images would serve as a reminder of her betrayal. I left the bar, my mind racing. I couldn't understand how Sarah could do this. It wasn't just about cheating. It was about the lies, the deceit, and the complete disregard for our life together. I thought about the life we had built, the years spent supporting each other, building our careers, dreaming about a future. In that moment, all those memories felt hollow. The next few days were excruciating. I kept replaying the images of Sarah and Jason in my mind, and the anger swelled each time. I decided I needed to take control of this situation. I couldn't just confront her. She'd just lie again. No, I needed to ensure my next steps were calculated and powerful. So I started focusing on my own career. I had been considering a promotion at work, but now that felt like my chance to not only rise in my professional life, but regain a sense of power in my personal life as well. I poured myself into my projects, staying late, putting in the extra hours, and making connections. I sought out mentorship from my boss, and to my surprise, he recognized my hard work and began advocating for me. As I climbed the corporate ladder, I began to feel stronger and more confident. I wasn't just a victim. I was a man taking back control. My focus shifted from the pain of betrayal to the excitement of new opportunities. I started to plan, not just for my career but for my next move in this game of life that Sarah had thrown me into. I decided to keep gathering evidence, documenting everything I could about her relationship with Jason. Each time I found something new, a text, a comment on social media, or another photo, I felt a sense of empowerment. I was no longer just the husband who had been cheated on. I was becoming a man who was willing to fight back. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I sat down to review my notes and photos. I had compiled enough evidence to confront her, but I wanted to ensure that when I did, it would be on my terms. I was ready. to expose her lies, and I wanted to ensure she understood the gravity of what she had done. It was time to take the next step, and I was prepared to do whatever it took to emerge stronger from this betrayal. I knew this was about more than just revenge. It was about reclaiming my narrative. I was done being the victim. I was determined to rise above this and prove to myself, and to Sarah, that I was more powerful than she could ever imagine. The days turned into weeks, and the walls I was building around myself started to feel like a fortress. As I focused on my career, I also began to shed the emotional weight that Sarah's betrayal had placed on my shoulders. I found a strange sense of solace in my newfound power at work. The promotion I had been chasing became less of a dream and more of a reality. With the support of my boss, I was now leading a project that would introduce a new software platform for our company. I spent hours in meetings, collaborating with brilliant minds, and I felt the exhilaration of being in the driver's seat. My confidence grew, as did my network within the industry. I was becoming a force to be reckoned with, and it felt good. But despite my professional successes, the personal betrayal still loomed large. I continued to gather evidence against Sarah. Each piece of information I uncovered made me feel more empowered but also more conflicted. I would watch her come home, all smiles and laughter, and I would wonder how she could pretend like everything was fine. The cognitive dissonance was exhausting, but I kept reminding myself that I was doing this for a reason. I was planning my next move. One Friday night, as I prepared to meet with my team to celebrate our project's progress, I received a call from one of my coworkers, Lisa. She was a close friend who had known me for years and could always sense when something was off. She asked me how I was handling everything with Sarah. I hesitated, unsure if I wanted to let anyone in on what was happening, but the weight of the secret was starting to wear me down. After a brief pause, I decided to open up to Lisa. I told her everything, the late nights, the texts, the photos, and how I felt like a stranger in my own home. To my surprise, Lisa didn't respond with shock. Instead, she said, "Mike, you have to confront her. Don't let her keep playing you for a fool. You deserve better." Her words struck a chord. Maybe this was the push I needed. I had been waiting for the right moment, but I realized that I had all the evidence I needed. I didn't have to play the waiting game anymore. I decided that I would confront Sarah that weekend, and I wanted it to be done in a way that left no room for her to wiggle out of it. As I prepared for the confrontation, I felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. I would need to be calm and collected, maintaining my composure while delivering the truth. I spent the rest of the week mentally rehearsing the conversation. I knew Sarah would try to deflect or downplay her actions, and I needed to be ready for that. The day finally arrived. I had decided to confront her on Sunday afternoon, when we usually spent time together at home. I had made plans to create an atmosphere that was conducive to a serious discussion. I prepared a light lunch, hoping to keep things as neutral as possible before diving into the deep waters of our relationship. When Sarah came home, I noticed she seemed more relaxed than usual. She chatted about her day, and I could tell she had no idea what was coming. We ate lunch together, and I waited for the right moment to bring up the topic. After she finished her sandwich, I cleared my throat and said, "Sarah, we need to talk about something important." Her demeanor shifted almost instantly. I could see the tension building as she registered my serious tone. "What's wrong, Mike?" she asked, feigning concern. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "I know about Jason. I've seen the messages. I have the photos. I know you've been cheating on me." The silence that followed was deafening. I watched her face go through a whirlwind of emotions: shock, anger, disbelief. "What are you talking about? That's ridiculous." She finally blurted out, her voice rising. "No, it's not ridiculous. I have proof, Sarah. You can't deny it anymore." I pulled out my phone and showed her the images I had collected. I watched as her facade crumbled, her eyes darting between the phone and my face. "You don't understand. It's not what you think," she shouted, her voice tinged with desperation. "I was just what, having fun, being social, as you always say." My anger was bubbling to the surface. "You said you were working late, but all this time you were with him." She fumbled for words, attempting to defend herself, but all I could hear were empty excuses. It was a mistake, Mike. I didn't mean for it to happen. You've been so distant lately. Her voice was rising and I could see the panic in her eyes. Distant. I scoffed, feeling my heart race. You've been the one shutting me out, lying to my face. I trusted you and you threw it all away. At that moment, I felt a surge of clarity. I wasn't just confronting her for my own sake. I was doing it to reclaim my narrative, to assert my worth. Watching her squirm only fueled my determination. I was done playing the victim. Mike, please, let's talk about this, she pleaded, but I could hear the insincerity in her voice. I knew I was not going to get any real explanation or apology. I want you to understand something, I said firmly. This isn't just about you and Jason. This is about my life, my future. I won't let you drag me down into this mess. I deserve better. I'm done. With that, I walked out of the room, leaving her standing there, speechless. The weight of the confrontation hung in the air, but I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I had finally taken control of the situation, and no matter what happened next, I knew I was ready to move forward. The aftermath was still looming large, but I felt empowered for the first time since discovering her betrayal. I was no longer just Mike, the betrayed husband. I was Mike, a man ready to forge his own path. I wouldn't allow Sarah's choices to dictate my life any longer. The path ahead was uncertain, but I was prepared to face whatever came next, stronger than before. The confrontation left a gaping hole in our home, and the silence that followed was deafening. I retreated to my office, my mind racing with thoughts and emotions. I had taken a huge step. I had confronted Sarah, exposed her lies, and put my foot down. But what came next? I knew the decision to move forward wouldn't be a simple one. Over the next few days, I kept reminding myself that I had done the right thing. I focused on my work, immersing myself in projects and meetings, using it as a distraction from the turmoil at home. I found solace in the fact that my career was flourishing. Each step I took at work felt like a step away from the chaos of my personal life. But when I returned to the emptiness of our house, the weight of Sarah's betrayal crashed down on me all over again. She tried to talk to me, to explain, but I couldn't bear to hear her excuses anymore. Each time we crossed paths, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. She would attempt to approach me with a smile or a casual comment, but I would just turn away, retreating into my own world. I had resolved to create a distance between us, not only to protect myself but also to give her a taste of the reality she had created. Then, one evening, as I was unwinding after a long day, I got a text from Lisa. She had been an incredible support throughout this ordeal, always there to listen without judgment. The text read, "Hey, how are you holding up? Want to grab a drink?" I hesitated for a moment, but I eventually agreed. I needed to get out, to surround myself with friends who could provide a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos. A few hours later, I found myself sitting in a cozy bar with Lisa, a cold drink in my hand, and a sense of relief washing over me. As we talked, I shared my feelings about everything that had happened. Lisa listened intently, offering insights and support. She encouraged me to think about what I truly wanted moving forward. I told her how I was feeling stronger in my career and how I was trying to focus on myself, but the emotional turmoil of the situation was still weighing heavily on my heart. "You need to think about what makes you happy, Mike," Lisa said thoughtfully. "You deserve to be with someone who values you and treats you right. This is your chance to redefine what happiness looks like for you." Her words resonated deeply. I had been so focused on the betrayal that I hadn't considered how this was also an opportunity for growth. It was a chance to reshape my life, my aspirations, and my happiness. I realized I couldn't let this situation define my future. As the night wore on, I started to feel a flicker of hope. Maybe this was my chance to break free from the chains that Sarah's actions had wrapped around me. I could create a life that was fulfilling and vibrant, one where I was the one in control. Over the next few weeks, I made a conscious effort to invest more in myself, physically, emotionally, and mentally. I hit the gym regularly, channeling my anger and frustration into my workouts. I surrounded myself with supportive friends like Lisa, who reminded me that I wasn't alone in this journey. And I focused on advancing my career, pouring my energy into projects that excited me and setting new professional goals. But the emotional remnants of Sarah's betrayal lingered. Despite my newfound strength, I would still have moments when I'd be blindsided by memories, happy moments that now felt tainted by her infidelity. I found myself scrolling through old photos of us, trying to reminisce about the good times, only to be hit by a wave of anger and sadness. It was a constant battle between wanting to remember the love we had and grappling with the hurt she had caused me. One day, while going through my old files on my computer, I stumbled upon a collection of our wedding photos. As I clicked through each image, a mixture of nostalgia and bitterness washed over me. I remembered how excited we both were, how we promised to support each other through thick and thin. I felt anger bubbling up again. How could she throw that all away for some fleeting affair? But instead of wallowing in despair, I made a choice. I decided to take the most painful reminders of my past and use them as fuel for my future. I deleted the old photos, cleaned out the memories tied to our life together, and made room for the new experiences I wanted to create. It was a cathartic moment, one that marked a turning point in my healing process. A few weeks later, I had a conversation with Sarah that I had been dreading. We hadn't talked about the affair in detail since that explosive confrontation, and I knew I couldn't avoid it forever. I had reached a point where I needed closure not just for her sake, but for my own. I sat her down in the living room, my heart racing. "We need to talk about what happened, Sarah," I said firmly. "I can't keep pretending like everything is fine." She looked at me, her expression a mix of regret and defiance. "I know I messed up, Mike. You have to understand I was feeling lost and I didn't know how to reach out to you." "Lost?" I spat back, anger flaring. "You think cheating is the solution to feeling lost? You betrayed the trust we built over years. It's hard to accept that you didn't even try to communicate with me." She tried to argue, but I could see the weariness in her eyes. The fight seemed to leave her as she realized that her excuses would no longer work. "I know I hurt you. And I'm sorry for that. I wish I could take it back." "Sorry doesn't change what you did," I replied, my voice steady. "I need to figure out what my life looks like without you. I can't continue living in this limbo. It's not fair to either of us." We talked for a while longer, sharing tears and frustrations, but I could feel the weight lifting. I knew we weren't going to reconcile, and I had to accept that the love we once shared had been irrevocably tainted. But the closure I felt gave me a sense of peace. I could finally start moving forward without looking back. As I left the living room that night, I felt stronger than ever. The future was uncertain, but it was mine to shape. I was determined to embrace this new chapter of my life, to find happiness on my own terms, and to rise above the betrayal that had threatened to consume me. I was ready to reclaim my narrative, and nothing could hold me back now. As I stepped into this new chapter of my life, a sense of empowerment began to take root. Leaving the remnants of my past with Sarah behind felt like shedding a heavy coat I had worn for far too long. I was unburdened and ready to embrace the world with a fresh perspective. In the weeks that followed my conversation with Sarah, I focused intently on my personal and professional growth. I immersed myself in my work, leading the project that was now gaining momentum and recognition within the company. My team and I were making strides, and I could feel the energy buzzing around us. I was not just contributing, I was becoming a leader, someone whose voice mattered. The relationships I built at work flourished. I was networking, attending industry events, and even speaking at a few seminars. I became known for my insights and innovative ideas, and it felt invigorating. Each success added to my confidence, proving that I could stand on my own 2 feet, regardless of my past. But it wasn't just work that I was focusing on. I started exploring new interests that I had neglected during my marriage. I picked up photography as a hobby. It was something I had always wanted to try but had never made the time for. I bought a camera and started wandering around the city, capturing moments and scenes that spoke to me. The beauty of the world through the lens brought me joy, and I felt a sense of creativity and freedom that I hadn't experienced in years. One day, while attending a photography exhibition, I met a woman named Claire. She was vibrant, with an infectious energy that drew me in. We struck up a conversation about our favorite photographers, and I found myself laughing and enjoying her company more than I had anticipated. Something about her was refreshing. She had a zest for life that reminded me of who I used to be before all the chaos. As the night progressed, we exchanged contact information and promised to meet up again for a photography outing. I left the gallery that night, feeling a spark of excitement I hadn't felt in ages. It was exhilarating to connect with someone new, especially someone who shared a passion for creativity. With each passing day, I felt the weight of my past lifting further and further. Sarah had tried to keep me in a box, but I was breaking free, rediscovering who I was as an individual. The more I invested in myself, the less I thought about her. I found comfort in the idea that I was forging my own path, and it was filled with possibilities. As Claire and I spent more time together, I realized the importance of genuine connection. She was open and honest, which was a stark contrast to my experiences with Sarah. We would go on long walks, discussing everything from our dreams to our fears, and I found it refreshing to be able to share my thoughts without fear of judgment. Eventually, we started dating. It felt strange at first, dipping my toes back into the world of romance after the hurt I had endured. But with Claire, things felt different. There was a natural chemistry between us, and I found myself smiling again, truly smiling. I realized I had been so wrapped up in my pain that I had forgotten what it felt like to connect with someone in a healthy way. However, as I was learning to embrace this new relationship, remnants of my past sometimes crept back in. I still had moments of doubt, questioning whether I was ready to open my heart again. One night, after a lovely dinner date with Claire, I returned home and had a moment of vulnerability. I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, lost in thought. I couldn't help but think about how things had fallen apart with Sarah and the pain that had once consumed me. But the self-reflection also brought clarity. I realized that I wasn't that same person anymore. I was stronger, more resilient, and ready to love without carrying the weight of my past. I had learned valuable lessons about trust, communication, and the importance of choosing a partner who truly valued me. As my relationship with Claire blossomed, I had an opportunity to take a step back and reflect on everything I had been through. I was grateful for the support of friends like Lisa, who had stood by me during the hardest moments. I found myself wanting to share my journey with her, to articulate how far I had come. One evening over dinner, I invited Lisa over and opened up about my experiences since the confrontation with Sarah. I told her about Claire, about how I was finally starting to feel whole again. She listened intently, her face lighting up as I shared my growth and newfound happiness. "Mike, I'm so proud of you," she said, her eyes shining with sincerity. "You've come a long way. It's inspiring to see you take control of your life. You deserve all the happiness that's coming your way." Her words resonated deeply, and I felt a wave of appreciation for the people who had supported me along this journey. It was a reminder that I wasn't alone, and that I had the strength to rise above my circumstances. As I continued to build my new life, I knew I had to confront Sarah one last time. I needed to find closure for both of us. I reached out to her, suggesting we meet up to talk. I felt it was important to share my progress with her, not out of spite, but to demonstrate that I had moved on. When we met, it was a mix of awkwardness and tension. Sarah looked different, more subdued, as if the reality of her actions had finally sunk in. I could see the regret in her eyes, and as we spoke, I felt a strange sense of empathy for her. I listened as she expressed her remorse, acknowledging the pain she had caused me. "I never wanted to hurt you, Mike," she said, her voice shaky. "I was lost and I made terrible choices. Seeing you now, I realize what I threw away." I took a deep breath, my heart heavy with mixed emotions. "Sarah, I appreciate you saying that, but I've moved on. I've found happiness again, and it's something I want to hold on to. I wish you the best, but I need you to understand that I won't be looking back." We parted ways after that conversation, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had taken the last step toward closure, and I was finally ready to embrace the future without the shadows of my past looming over me. I was determined to live my life to the fullest, to love fiercely, and to continue building the life I had always dreamed of. With Claire by my side, I looked toward the horizon with hope. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had shaped me into a stronger person. I learned that sometimes the greatest triumphs come after the most painful defeats. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that I had the strength to navigate it all. As I settled into my new routine, a sense of peace enveloped me. The chaos of the past felt like a distant memory, a chapter in my life that had closed, leaving behind lessons rather than heartache. With Claire, each day felt like an adventure. We explored new places, shared our dreams, and supported each other in ways I had never experienced before. There was an honesty between us that breathed fresh life into my spirit. One afternoon, while we were out on a hike, I stopped to take a photo of the breathtaking view before us. As I adjusted the lens, I turned to Claire and said, "You know, I've realized how important it is to appreciate the beauty in life. It's easy to get caught up in darkness, but there's so much light out there too." She smiled, her eyes sparkling with understanding. "Absolutely. It's about finding balance and surrounding ourselves with positivity. I love that you're so passionate about photography. You capture moments that most people overlook." With each passing day, I felt myself transforming, shedding the remnants of my past and embracing the man I had become. No longer was I defined by the betrayal or the mistakes of my marriage. Instead, I was building something new, something that felt genuine and fulfilling. As our relationship deepened, Claire and I started discussing future plans. It was refreshing to envision a future with someone who respected me and shared my values. We both craved adventure and growth, and the thought of navigating life together excited me. We talked about traveling, pursuing our passions, and creating a life filled with joy and purpose. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, I looked at her and felt a rush of gratitude. "You've changed my life, Claire. Thank you for being so supportive and for showing me what a healthy relationship looks like." She smiled softly, leaning in closer. "I feel the same way, Mike. I think we both needed this to grow. It's incredible how life can take unexpected turns and lead us to where we're meant to be." As the months rolled by, I continued to reflect on my journey. I had learned that resilience was not just about enduring pain, it was about rising above it and choosing happiness. I learned to forgive, not just Sarah, but myself, for the time I spent in a toxic relationship. I had to recognize that the past would always be a part of me, but it didn't have to dictate my present or future. Eventually, I found the courage to have one last conversation with Sarah, not to rekindle anything, but to finalize the emotional ties that had lingered. I wanted her to know that I had fully moved on and that I wished her well. We met at a coffee shop, a neutral ground, and as we talked, I could see that she had been working on herself too. "I've realized a lot since we last spoke," she said, her voice steady. "I'm trying to be a better person and learn from my mistakes. I hope you can forgive me one day." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of our shared history. "I've already forgiven you, Sarah. I need you to know that I'm happy now. I've found love and purpose in my life, and I hope you find the same." As we parted ways, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. I was no longer tethered to the past. I was free to fully embrace my future. The journey had been hard, but it had taught me invaluable lessons about love, trust, and self-worth. With Claire by my side, I was ready to face whatever life had to offer. We planned a trip to Europe, where we would explore new cultures, capture stunning landscapes, and create memories that would last a lifetime. I was excited for all the adventures that lay ahead, knowing that I was no longer defined by betrayal, but rather by my strength to rise above it. As I packed my bag, I reflected on my journey. It was a testament to resilience and the power of self-discovery. I had turned my pain into growth, and that was something no one could take away from me. I stepped into the future with hope, ready to embrace the beauty of life, one moment at a time.